So just when I was getting ready to get this car insured, registered, and out on the road, it decided to take a dump on me. I had taken it to work one morning and no problems at all. No crazy noises, nothing overheating, nothing out of the ordinary. When I got to work, I parked it just like normal, turned everything off. I even unplugged the battery to make sure it's not gonna die out while I'm there. As soon as I started it, it wasn't turning over. My immediate thought was it was the battery. So I plugged up my battery pack thing here, let it charge up for a few minutes, still wasn't working. I actually even took an Uber home to pick up the battery from the BMW. Then I took my truck back to work, plugged that in, that wasn't working. So for sure it's not the battery. Then I thought it could be the starter. I know there's supposed to be a technique where you can hit the starter with like a hammer or a wrench or something, but since the car's too low, I can't even get down there without having to jack it up. So that's kind of out of the question. I got a couple of my coworkers to help me push start it, but that wasn't doing anything. I tried it on first gear, dumped the clutch while they were pushing, nothing. Tried it on second gear, nothing. You can actually kind of hear the starter start too, so it's definitely not the starter. Hear that click? That's the starter. After a couple hours of trying to diagnose it at the parking lot at work, I decided to just call a tow truck and see if I can get it home, see if I can take care of it in my garage. The first thing I wanted to check was to see if I can manually turn it over. Usually with the car still on neutral, you should be able to pull on this belt here and it should pretty easily turn it over, or at least you can spin the generator. In this case, it's really difficult. It's kind of tight here, so I can't really get a solid grip. So the next thing I tried to do was try to put a long socket through this hole here and lock it into the pulley. See if I can turn the pulley that way, but that just wasn't doing anything at all. The next thing I did was remove these clamps off of this boot right here so I can separate it from this fan shroud. And that allowed me to stick a breaker bar with an extension and a 30mm socket directly onto the pulley bolt there. What that allowed me to do was try to see if I can manually turn the shaft with a breaker bar, and as you can see, it feels like it's really seized on there. I do find it real strange that I've literally only driven this about 130 miles ever since I put the brand new motor in. I've taken the Squareback on a few joy rides every now and then, and I've had no problems with it. And then all of a sudden, when I'm ready to actually put it out on the street legally, it doesn't work. Here's a video of me driving it a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to try to see if I can diagnose this any further with the engine still in the car. Otherwise, I'm going to have to definitely pull the engine out and just diagnose it that way. I've actually already taken off the air cleaner and both carburetors, as well as all 4 of the spark plugs. If it wasn't the battery, if it's not the starter, then the next diagnosis would be the carburetor system. A coworker of mine was telling me that sometimes these will actually leak and continue to flood the cylinders full of gasoline. And since gasoline is incompressible in the cylinder, I was thinking maybe gas did leak into the cylinder, past the valves, and filled the cylinder up full of gas, and that could be the reason why it's just not compressing. So what I did was I took off this air cleaner here, took off both carburetors, took off all the spark plugs, see if I can turn it that way, but that still wasn't working. With the spark plugs removed, I rolled up this paper towel here and kind of shoved it where the spark plugs go to see if there was any moisture inside the cylinders, and this came back dry. So obviously there's no liquid inside there, and I did that for all 4 cylinders, so I don't think that's going to be the case. The next thing I want to try and do is remove the valve covers down there, remove the rocker arms, and check the push rods. I'm thinking maybe if the push rods are somehow bent, it may be locking up the camshaft, and if the camshaft is locked up, it's not going to spin and it's going to seize this up. So that may be something I want to check out. So I'm going to have to lift up the Squareback, put it on jack stands, and check it out from underneath.
Several months later.
Alright, it's been a couple of months since I last touched the Squareback. I kind of took a little break from this project and I've been focusing on working on the truck lately. But it's time to pick up where I left off. So I've got all 4 corners lifted on the jack stands and I'm ready to drain the oil. I wanted to drain the oil just to kind of see if there's any metal shavings in there. Hopefully there aren't, but I guess we'll see what the contents are going to look like. So I do have this magnetic drain plug here, so if I do have any metal shavings, it should collect there. But still, after I drain everything, I'd like to see how the oil is going to look like inside the pan. So first thing is to get this nut off. So it's really thick. You can see it's draining really slowly there. And it doesn't look like there's any metal shavings here, just a lot of crud. So let's wait and see how it looks like once it's all drained out. Okay, you can see this is the bottom of the oil plate cover thing. I just put the bolt back there so I don't lose it, but it doesn't really look too bad. I mean, it is really thick right here. Let's see if I feel anything. There's a little bit of, like, it almost kind of feels like sand. So I really hope that's not like bearing material or something. In which case I will have to split the case if that was actually the reason why this motor seized. So it's not looking too good. Yeah, this oil is really thick. I really do feel like a really small amount of graininess down here at the bottom. So I'm really wondering if that's like bearing material or something. So I was kind of running my fingers through this oil strainer here, and I actually found this, I don't know, it kind of feels like rubber or something, or maybe gasket. Yeah, I think that might be RTV. And now I'm really wondering if there was just excess RTV that kind of went into the oil system and possibly clogged up one of the orifices. So now I'm really worried that I'm gonna have to split the case. As I run my fingers through this, I'm finding a little bit more and more. See, here it is right here. A little bit more RTV, it feels like. Okay, I feel something. I don't know if you can see all that, but definitely a lot of debris in there. So I guess this means that I'm gonna have to pull the engine out. So I'm gonna be saving that for another video. It is a little bit discouraging, the fact that I worked so hard on this engine only for it to seize up about 130 miles into a drive. I really don't know what happened. Maybe it was just the excess RTV material, and then it just got reintroduced into the whole oil system and then just clogged up the entire motor. And maybe just kind of didn't feed enough oil over to one of the bearings. Maybe that's what all that material was in the oil. Who knows? Possibly. This is my first engine build after all, so you live and you learn, I guess. So in the next video, I'll probably be prepping for removal of this whole engine again.